Welcome to the Culture Stoke podcast, where happier people lead to better results. All right, we are here back at the Culture Stoke studio. Another Stoke session. Yes. Could I
like the cadence.
Could I have been more emphatic about that? Maybe.
Try
not
time.
to. I'll try not to. Hey, we're doing another Stoke session with the boys.
Stoked.
I am Richard. I am your host. I'm joined by Mr.
Marty
Imes, co-founder, and Wes Love, other co-founder of Culture Stoke.
You almost forgot. It was right
I
there.
did not. You listen
name.
here. I did not. You don't you put that evil on me. All right. So the goal of our Stoke session, you guys good? Here we go.
Yep.
Stoke session. These are questions that you've asked, that we've heard, that we've written. Put it down in the bowl of love. And it's not dang it.
That one. Not there.
And I take it out. You guys answer as succinctly, as beautifully, as magnificently as possible. There we go.
Challenge accepted. Let's go.
Yep. And
let's do this.
and I will stop you if you start pontificating. So here we go.
At the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for.
You listen here. Okay, here we go. Ooh, hey, this is a good one. I have things to say about this.
Oh, sweet.
Once in a while.
I'll just leave.
Oh no. Okay, so how does a leader of an organization, a business, a place create a culture of transparency? Culture of transparency. So, who's first? Who's going to be
In order to create a culture of transparency, a leader has to be brave.
Transparent. Oh, brave. Okay.
Yes.
How is he brave?
To be willing to speak into things that are otherwise uncomfortable.
Okay.
To be fully honest with the team. We are big believers of organizational honesty, where you can only grow in proportion to how honest you are with yourself and others. And so oftentimes honesty is going to require not only saying the quiet things out loud, but to be very genuine about what's going well, what might not be going so well, what's working, where the weakness is, and very much leading by example.
Yeah.
You can't create a culture of transparency even if the leader is only willing to give 60% of the information.
Right.
And so you have to be willing, in order to be brave, bold, courageous, to speak into the elephants in the room, the things that are uncomfortable, the ideas that maybe people present that aren't necessarily going to work at this juncture of time, but to really embrace the reality of business. And sometimes that can be very difficult, even especially if there's a challenging moment going on and you're trying to rally the troops, provide and instill confidence or motivate people.
Right.
And in order to do all those things, I can't think of another word other than bravery that is absolutely required.
Yeah. I mean, I hear brave, and I the first thought was what you said is like it has to start with the leader.
Mhm.
Like the way you're brave is by being transparent yourself.
Yeah.
If you set that tone in the room, generally people will follow.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Over time, it's going to happen. I mean, unless you're spilling the beans on weird stuff, you know.
No, but so in my undergraduate, I read a book called If Aristotle Ran General Motors, which is a fantastic read
amazing.
if you're looking for it.
I want to read that
it's
book.
It's very poetic. Anthony, I want my book back, by the way.
Here, Anthony. We'll find you.
But one of the things that the author spends a lot of time on is talking about transparency. And so to take it to the results-based, what the author was saying basically is that your people cannot perform at their highest unless they're in the know. And so this is a shift for leaders because we even grew up on it with it was like Schoolhouse Rock or whatever. It was like knowledge is power, and leaders have for a long time held on to. It's like, well, I can't let people know because they can't handle it or whatever the stories that they told themselves. But at the root of it, at the root of why knowledge was power, was because if you know what I know, then I'm somehow less important. And so that's when we say be brave, and when we say be transparent, when we say be courageous, it is courageous and confident in yourself enough to know that your purpose is not just to be the gatekeeper of knowledge. Your purpose is to be a leader of people. So you want to create a culture of transparency. You want your people to be open, honest with you.
You gotta be open with them,
right? So if you
don't,
I also don't know why you sang it.
Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just like, yeah, go to.
I mean, but it seems like an oversimplification, but this is one of those times where we've overcomplicated the workplace. Right. We've got to have all these, checks and balances about the information that we share. Now, I will caveat this with the HR side of things. There definitely needs to be some. You don't want to put
guardrails.
You don't want to put everybody's stuff out on Main Street.
Yeah.
But from an organizational perspective, how the business is going, the decisions that were made and why they were made, et cetera, that's all stuff that should just be out in the open. Honesty is the best policy. Think about how much mental and emotional energy you spend in the workplace trying to figure out who knows what and what's okay to share when, and who gets to know these things, and all the rights and security and all the stuff that you put in place.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting. And it's just another layer of crap that you got to deal with on a day-to-day basis that does not add value.
Well, and I imagine, I at least having been in that position, it's just annoying. Yeah. It's like, I actually know from Johnny and Sally who's in HR that happened, but you're being all cryptic and weird about it. Come on, guys. Like, just tell me. Let's be honest. Most people know anyway.
Yeah.
So, in absence of information, people are going to make assumptions.
Yeah.
They're going to make up stories that are oftentimes worse than the actual fact of the matter.
Yeah.
And
we do that as a people.
Absolutely. Because humans, we're uniquely tuned to look for patterns. Yeah. And if there's something that's a bit of a miss, we're going to try to understand or justify, rationalize why things are the way they are.
Well, and we have a bend towards creating a negative narrative around that too, because fear is a much greater motivator than well, not technically, but it's something that people are drawn to.
Yeah, absolutely. Even our own survival instincts of looking like it's much easier to recognize the negative or the threatening things than it is the positive things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the culture of transparency, is not only is it kind of enabled by a leader, but it also requires other people.
Yeah.
It can be the supervisors, the managers, other individuals. And oftentimes, I hate to use that word so much, the biggest challenge is, and it's also, I would say, something if you can assuage in your team, give them the opportunity to say, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. I don't have all the answers around this. I might need to seek more information. That in and of itself lends to creating a spirit of transparency. Because oftentimes, again, I'm going to say it, where leaders sometimes get themselves into hot water is thinking that they need to know all of the answers. They need to, if someone answers this question, I don't know, but I'm going to make up an answer, which is within a neighborhood of possibility. But if it's not actually the right answer and someone follows through on that, now you just pointed me down a path that got me in hot water or didn't go the way I wanted. I don't know if I can trust you on this. So be brave in saying, that's a great question. I'm not sure. Let's try and figure this out together.
Yeah.
That's another situation that we've seen
regularly or enough. Oftentimes. Yeah.
Yes.
Often.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You.
Yeah.
It makes too much sense to not be as pervasive in the workplace as it should be.
What do you mean?
I just mean, somebody argue with me. I would love to have the conversation about why transparency in the workplace is actually why that would be a detriment.
Yeah.
Like, what are you afraid of?
Show me any other reason why it should be.
Because I can show you 60 years of data that shows that when you have secrets, when you have all of these layers of complexity, what it's given you. It's given you where we are today, which is this adversarial relationship between employee and employer. It's all transactional. It's all very cold and very clinical. We have leadership development opportunities aplenty. There's innate disengagement in the workplace. And just from a human standpoint, when you have people in your life that you think are keeping things from you or that are not being as open and honest and transparent with you, how do you view them?
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it really, at the end of the day, it just feels so like I just don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I understand on the surface level, but if you just did like a little bit of mental acrobatics and just really asked yourself the question, like, why do I feel the need to keep this from people? What am I protecting myself from, or what am I protecting them from? And why am I feeling compelled to do that? I can't, I'm racking my brain trying to come up with it, what the counter argument is. I'm sure there is one. The answer is usually somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
And I think what you're speaking into is sometimes where leaders think, well, there's things that I need to guard, particularly around like financial information.
Sure.
And so people, in order to guard our revenues or profitability, because, oh my goodness, if the team knew how the business is doing, are they going to now demand higher compensation or different benefits? And maybe,
or be worried about their job and go look for another job.
Yes, absolutely. But if your numbers are great, awesome. That's your team. You and the team are doing things really well. And profitability is not something evil. We are all about not only people thriving, but also businesses thriving. And the result of that is profitability.
Yeah.
We want that. We want to decrease the expenses, increase productivity, increase profitability. That's all well and that's great. That's not
amazing.
Not just well and good.
What we're not for is at the expense of your people.
Yes.
That's where it gets different.
Yes. Thank you. And so creating a culture of transparency can oftentimes, is about the financial component. If we can speak into and demonstrate, okay, we can be really transparent around these areas of business, but this is a bit of a sacred cow that we're not going to really shine a light on. That can still, you're creating an absence of information. Now people are going to have stories. They might think the company is doing better than it actually is. They might think it's doing worse than the company actually is.
Yeah.
And so there can be a really great opportunity for leaders who don't necessarily need to get in the nitty gritty of cash flow statements and balance sheets, but hey, let's share. This is our revenue. This is our profitability, our margin, or what have you. This is our growth rate. These are our goals when it comes to our strategy. Are we on track? Are we off track? That type of opportunity to be able to share that information now allows your team to be able to think like an owner, to think not just entrepreneurially, but intrapreneurially in your organization.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're off of our goal here. Well, we might need to be able to look to reduce costs, or we might need to do some additional efforts to increase sales in other ways.
Right.
That type of transparency, not only from the performance of what's happening, is where you can look at the process of open book management can be really beneficial for an organization, because now not am I only focused on what's happening in my role within my team, but I'm drawing the connections of how what I'm doing here is impacting the company in a greater capacity.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want to say it was Simon Sinek who said that nobody cares that their leader makes more money than them until they show that they don't deserve it. Right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that we're making so much money, and if my people see that and they know that, they're going to ask me for more money. If you're doing all the things that you should be doing to be an effective leader, nobody's going to begrudge you for having a good profit margin, as long as you're taking care of your people. If they felt taken care of, if they feel like you're not thriving at the expense of them, you're not looking at them as I need to pay them the least amount so I can make the most amount. If you've created that narrative, then when you show record profit, people are going to go, why are you nickel and diming me over here when you're making money hand over fist, Scrooge McDuck? Well, of course they're going to be like that. But if you're open and honest and transparent, to Marty's point, now they can think critically about the work that they're doing. Now you don't have to sit there in meetings over and over again and justify why you weren't able to buy that new piece of equipment, or because you can point to it and say, hey, we just didn't have the cash flow for it. And people are going to play within the sandbox that you create. But if you create one where everybody's just hiding their cards, well, then of course there's always going to be, you're going to create that relationship where there's an assumption that you're keeping something from me.
Yeah.
And that's not a place that anybody wants to live, work, and play.
Well, I imagine that permeates to not, like, if you do that with one thing, it starts to permeate to every
If you
thing.
do it,
So now,
even if
you're being transparent,
if you do it with one thing, they're going to assume that you're not
being transparent.
And just like you would in any other relationship.
No, yeah, you're right. And I think that kind of draws maybe this idea of, bravery, courageous, like transparency. It's a holistic, every facet of your business and person should, again, you're not spilling the beans on like every
no, this isn't
nuance.
Gossip and this isn't tea spilling, but just be open and real.
Tea. Yeah. About all parts of the business, organizational, finances, operational, even personnel, I imagine. Like, hey, John left because of this reason, like, I don't know.
If it's an HR, I was gonna say, if there's, thematically, I think that is a comfortable, may not necessarily be comfortable, but it would be, I would advise that's okay. Let's think of this person left for this reason.
Yeah.
Might be in.
That's fine.
Yeah. But I don't think get into because Sheila had this conversation.
Right. But at least giving some sort of lane for people to think when that person left. It's like,
was it voluntary, involuntary?
Was it voluntary, involuntary? Hey, they just weren't hitting their numbers and we just couldn't, whatever. Being honest about that is, I imagine helps people, probably motivates people to continue to hit their own numbers as long as they have their foundations and stuff in place. And then also, just creates transparency in the workplace.
I think if you're a leader and you're listening to this and you're suffering from headaches and stress, today, I want you to just take 5 minutes, go for a walk. And I want you to think about how much mental and emotional bandwidth you are spending on navigating the transparency lanes, and the walls and stories that you've told, the walls you've erected and the stories that you've told yourself about why I need to keep this stuff from people. And I want you to is it working for you?
That's fantastic. That's a great way. That's a great way to start for them and a great way for us to end, I think. So with that, we wrapped up another Culture Stoke session, Culture of Transparency. We are Culture Stoke, happier people,
better results.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Stoke podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate us wherever you tune in. Share this episode with anybody who could use a culture boost. Until next time, keep stoking the fire.